Hospital's Board of Directors. Today's meeting is officially called to order, so I would like to welcome the new members to the board, Dr. Michael Espiritu, the Manhattan City Council Representative, Vanessa Rodriguez, the Bronx Council Representative, and Tricia Tate, the Queen City Council Representative. So for the record, please know that Erin Kelly is representing Deputy Mayor Ann Williams Eisen. Karen St. Hilaire is representing Molly Wasso Park. Dr. William Fisher is representing Dr. Jean Wright. And Dr. Sahira Magnad is representing Dr. Michelle Morse, all in a voting capacity. So next on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes for the Board of Directors meeting held on January 30th, 2025. Are there any questions or comments or changes? Can I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Both say no. So the motion carries. During the executive session, the board received and approved oral and written governing body reports from NYC Health and Hospitals Lincoln and Kings County. The board also received and approved the written submission of the semi-annual governing body reports from NYC Health and Hospitals Queens. And Vendex approvals. Since we began the process of approving contracts prior to Vendex approvals, there is one item on today's agenda requiring Vendex approval, of which there's a number there. Some have an approval. There are 31 items from previous board meetings pending Vendex approvals. We will continue to notify the board as outstanding Vendex approvals are received. So let me mention something about public meetings. Please mark your calendars for the upcoming Board of Directors annual public meetings for fiscal year 2025. These meetings will begin at 6 p.m. on the following dates and locations. Manhattan, it will be Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 at Gouverneur. In Brooklyn, it's going to be Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 at South Brooklyn Health. The Bronx is going to be Tuesday, May 20th at Jacobi Hospital. And Staten Island will be Tuesday, June 17th at Seaview. So let's move on to the resolutions. We have one action item, and it's authorizing the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to execute a contract with FireMax Systems Corp. to undertake mandated inspections and testing of fire alarm and fire protection systems across all acute care and post-acute care NYC Health and Hospitals facilities for a contract amount of $4,453,875 with a 20% project contingency of $890,775 to bring the total cost not to exceed to $5,344,650 starting on April 2025 with a term of 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew. And this was presented to the Capital Committee on February 3rd, 2025.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members, Dr. Pagan and Dr. Katz. I am Manny Saez, VP of Facilities Development, and I'm joined here with Menji Indar, AVP of Facilities Development. So as previously mentioned, this is a request to enter into contract, and a little bit of background relative to this. New York City Health and Hospitals has mandated quarterly, semi-annual, and annual inspections and testing of our fire alarm and protection systems. Our vendors are required to perform fire safety services that include preventative maintenance, repairs, documentation, panel programming, inspections, and testing. The current agreement with FireMax Systems originally expired on December 31st of 2024. In order to complete the RFP, the agreement was extended through April 31st of 2025. The extension value was under $1 million. So consistent with our OP 100-5, the agreement extension was approved by supply chain. The total contract spend between 2019 and 2024 is $6.2 million. $5,407,070 in PMs and $859,459 in repairs. FireMax provides services to all of Health and Hospitals facilities and our selected few sites at Gotham. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Menji, who will take us through the procurement.
Thanks, Manny. So this is our substantive criteria for most of our RFPs. The evaluation committee were made up of a number of director of engineering at our sites and our stationary engineers. These are the folks that interact with the vendors and that manage most of the systems that this vendor will maintain. Next slide. This is a timeline of the procurement. Back in May of 2024, we issued an application for proposals, which was approved by CRC. In October of '24, the RFP was posted to city records and sent directly to 3 vendors. We received pre-proposal conference was held and 3 vendors attended. In November, 1 proposal was received, and in December, the evaluation committee met, rated that proposal, and FireMax was the highest rated proposal. Next slide. This is the contract budget. So it's a $4.4 million contract with a 20% contingency for a total not to exceed of $5.4 million. The 20% contingency is standard for most of our PM contracts, and it covers any new equipment added, in addition to any emergency work we may need for the duration of the contract. Next slide. This is our vendor diversity information. So FireMax has committed to a 20% goal with NRM Systems, who will provide administrative work, parts, and maintenance logs. FireMax was the incumbent or the prior vendor, and on their previous contract, they had a 20% MWB commitment, which they're currently at 16%. So they're on track to meet that commitment. Next slide. This is the vendor rating. It's been excellent to date. And the last slide is the resolution. And thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Any questions from board members? Okay, so let me then take it for a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. So the resolution passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to President's report. Dr. Katz.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. So many wonderful things happening. We celebrated Black History Month with a variety of art programs, including music programs, at all of our facilities, and they were greatly appreciated. We have appointed Sandra Sneed to be the new CEO at Woodhall. We're very excited about her joining us. She was actually born at Queens County Hospital. She got her degree in occupational health because she wanted to be as an occupational therapist, because she wanted to be able to help people to live better lives after a serious injury or illness. She worked at Kings County. She worked at Bellevue. She got a management position at Bellevue, and then she went on to be the chief operating officer at a variety of major systems throughout the U.S. She's incredibly excited to come back to New York City, which she thinks of as her home, and we're really pleased to have her. We are sad to say goodbye to Greg, who's retiring. He's been an incredibly great CEO for us for a long time, and we will miss him. We were with the mayor in Far Rockaway at the starting of final construction for our clinic, which we set up there in order to really address the health disparities that exist in the Rockaway area. It's the board, long-term members will remember you voted on it. You remember it was the corner property with right near the subway, and we're going to really look forward to it opening. Woodhall renovated its psychiatric unit so that we have a state-of-the-art unit. Elmhurst opened up a women's heart health practice. Bellevue was recognized as a pediatric innovator. We were right across the street from the parachute jump, opening up the redo of the Ida G. Community Health Center, which had been lost in Superstorm Sandy and now was rebuilt, which it had for me a really funny and pleasant echo. When I was in San Francisco, I was fortunate enough that my local congressperson who supported my hospitals was Nancy Pelosi. So how nice, right, to have, your local congressperson be Nancy Pelosi and have that power. So who am I sitting next to at the opening? Joaquin Jeffries, so nice, right? When you have, you're lucky enough to have the leader of the Democratic Party, at your opening. And it also said something about him, that he was there despite all the stuff going on, just as it always did about Nancy coming out to the hospital despite her responsibilities. So it was a very sweet moment. We like to help people with their tax prep, especially to try to get as many people as possible the workers' credit, which is a good way to help people's family income. And we opened a new wellness room at Morrisania, as we're trying to do in all our places. We graduated 100 people from our peer academy, which has been, I think, a huge success throughout health and hospitals. We feel very much that peers help us to de-escalate issues that occur on the hospital wards, on the psychiatric wards, in the emergency room, and a much better use than to involve law enforcement, which causes all kinds of accelerations, no matter how sensitively they go at it. It's just different when someone's coming at you who's wearing a uniform. We had a very nice celebration at Gouverneur for the Year of the Snake. BlackDoctor.org had called Harlem Hospital one of the best hospitals for Black America. Dr. Michelle Allen was named to the AMNY and Politics New York 2025 Black Power Leaders. We're very proud of her. Dr. Michelle Soto, who you've met before when she was at South Brooklyn, is now the medical director at North Central Bronx. I think she'll do a great job. A little surprised, this may seem small, but I was very impressed that Health and Hospitals won the 2024 Richard L. Doyle Award for Innovation and Leadership in Healthcare. And while I don't know who Richard L. Doyle was, I appreciated the $10,000 to Health and Hospitals, which we can use for further revenue development. And it's the award has $10,000 in it, then you know that a lot of people applied. One of our physicians, Howard Finger, was named 2025 Clinician of the Year. We're proud of him. Modern Healthcare named Dr. Hannah Jackson to the 40 under 40 list. Still waiting for the 65 over 65 list. That will come at some point. We had Dr. Wendy Wilcox spoke for us on an Albany perinatal panel report. She does a great job for us. We appreciate that. We are, thanks to the great work of our sister organization, and Karen is here to represent that organization, we are winding down our work on the HERCs. The Health and Hospital, I think, played a critical role that no one else in the city was as capable of performing, which is expand rapidly. Right, that's what we did. We expanded rapidly. I think at one time, the HERC system had 65,000 people living at the variety of centers, most of which were ours. We ran the Roosevelt Center, which was the intake where everybody got immunizations and connected to healthcare, insurance, and we did tuberculosis screening, and we got people enrolled in schools, and we did I think the last count was that people were from 160 different countries who entered it, and we did it all with appropriate translation services. But now the number of new asylum seekers is small enough, and our sister department is ready to take it on, in addition to taking care of New York's native homeless population. And so we will, for a while, we will be running only the Row. Is the only hotel that will be left with the close of the Roosevelt. And we'll be doing that for a while. But we really appreciate that you've been able to take it on, Karen, in such short time. And it says a lot about the success of your agency. I think it'd be ridiculous for me to try to summarize external affairs, given all that's going on. You all read the newspapers. I'll just say, it's a difficult time for people working at health and hospitals. People are distressed. People, I think, I know that the things that they have worked hardest on are being threatened, and that the people that they take care of are being threatened. And that makes it a very difficult time. And I think the only possible response for us is to, make sure that we're doing as great a job taking care of people and welcoming them to our, services as we can. We may, you've read while on the table there are no Medicaid cuts yet, it is impossible for people who do math to understand how the bill that was passed by the House could possibly achieve its goal without a major Medicaid cut. Just so it's not in there, it doesn't say big Medicaid cut, but the numbers don't seem to suggest any other way that you could do it. And of course, we are incredibly reliant on Medicaid. And we could easily, depending upon, what happens, have cuts in the order of hundreds of millions of dollars. And as we've talked about before, one of the challenges, and it's part of how health and hospitals is different than the rest of the city, we earn about 80 cents on the dollar for the services we provide. Right? The 20 cents are the people who either have no insurance or whose insurance doesn't pay the cost of the care. And the significance of it is if you have to cut services in order to reach a budget, you'd have to cut essentially 80 cents to get 20 cents. Or you cut $1 to save 20 cents. And so it's very, and in addition to that, 85% of our budget is people. So cuts mean people. There's no other way to do it, right? It means cutting people. And it's equally true, and I have been through multiple other kinds of cuts in my career. Part of the challenge, and again, this is how we're unlike parts of the city, you can't have a waiting list for your hospital. And almost all our expense is hospital. So you can have waiting lists for outpatient services. It's not ideal, and often what happens is the people wind up back into the emergency rooms. You don't even necessarily save anything. But you can say, I'm sorry, we have less money, we only have this much outpatient service. But you can't do that about hospitals. Hospitals, we have very few planned admissions. Almost everybody in health and hospitals comes through the emergency department. And no matter what cuts happen in Medicaid, that doesn't change. And people do stay home when they have an illness such that they can stay home. But generally, if you have an illness such that if you came to a hospital, you'd get admitted, you probably can't stay home for long. Maybe you can delay a few hours until it's inevitable that you're too short of breath or too febrile, bleeding too much, in too much pain, you're going to come in. And so how you, as a system, if we suddenly have hundreds of millions of dollars less, how you can constrict a system our size in a reasonable amount of time when you don't have any control. We don't have control over most of the intake. We certainly people, our salaries are set by unions, and our salaries are not high relative to the market. So not clear you can do anything there. So how do you hit hundreds of millions of dollars of potential cuts? And the answer is it would be, very devastating. And, so I continue to hope we as part of our advocacy, we remind people all the time, it's not my favorite, right? I believe in Medicaid because I believe it makes people's lives better. But the way to save Medicaid is to keep pointing out that the money doesn't go to the people. the money goes to the hospitals and the doctors, right? That's where the money goes for Medicaid. Doctors sensibly don't like having to come to emergency rooms and see patients who are uninsured because they're not getting paid. Very reasonable. People don't like to work without getting paid. And same with hospitals. And that's ultimately why Medicaid was expanded in 40 states in the US, despite some of the protest against Obamacare. At the end of the day, who was out there saying, you know, we want Medicaid? The hospitals and the doctors, because they're the ones getting paid. So, you know, I have some hope that, you know, the fact that the doctors and hospitals want to get paid, and they want to get paid in blue states and in red states, and the pharmaceutical companies want their medications bought, and the device companies want their stents bought, and that there's enough oomph there to prevent the worst kind of cuts. But there's a lot of distress throughout health and hospitals that, you know, about those issues. So it will be a challenging few months. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Katz?
Dr. Katz, thank you to your team, Ted and Chris, and everyone for stepping in. We were at the height of the crisis. I know I'm speaking for Molly and the team. I say we're truly grateful and happy this coming to an end, sort of.
It's a pleasure to work with you.
I just wanted to actually echo that and grateful that you guys are stepping in, but also recognize how incredibly proud we are of Ted and Chris and the team and everything you did. So we're happy to be winding down, but and grateful for your partnership and wish for your success.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you. So committee reports. The committee reports were emailed to you and in your electronic folder for your review and submission into the record. Is there any old or new business from board members to come before this board? So hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
This meeting is no longer being
be here.
recorded.